One summer, long ago, I worked for a house painting company made of many small franchises, preying on college students for underpaid and overworked employees. Said indentured servants/workforce generally returned to school in late August, and the franchise would close until next summer. I was a lackey who hired everyone, formed crews, met the customers, transported materials, etc., aka my boss's job, but he preferred, not doing it. Late in the summer, my boss decided to continue into the fall months so he could make more money, while depriving me even further of the will to live. So I had to hire people who were in the painting business, but for whatever reason couldn't find a job with a reputable company, and so had no option but to work with us. Enter Jim. Jim was a veteran, about 45 years old, which was far above my usual 18 to 22 hiring demographic, but had impressed me over the phone, as I was essentially painting entire houses myself or with a skeleton crew until I could scrounge up more workers. I didn't interview him in person, just told him to show up ready to go and to meet me and the crew at the new job site 9 a.m. Monday. Life happens as it does, and I had a family emergency that prohibited me from being there on Monday. Some of my summer workers who didn't go off to school would be there, so I texted them, explaining them to help Jim get used to the way we worked, and make sure to keep it basic. If he was having trouble, send him home and he'd start over with me there the next day. 9:45 a.m. My phone is blown up with texts and calls. I'm at awake, but I slip outside to hiss into the phone. I'm staring at a dead family member and, you know this. Now, what? Jim isn't okay. What do you mean? He's fucking insane. He's ruining this person's roof, and he won't listen to us. He keeps screaming at us to shut up. Well, I thought Jim had a point with the last part, since my crew spent more time talking than painting. But I digress. In their infinite wisdom, my crew stuck this new dude up on the roof to paint a teeny space, which would take about 5 minutes with a brush. Homeboy pulls out a 9-inch roller and goes to town, swooping the thing up and down like a skateboarder on a half-pipe, so the entire black roof area below him is covered in beige paint. I tell them to get him down and send him home. I'll deal with him after the wake. I tell my boss what's going on. He brushes it off, saying that Jim called him to apologize, and tell him he could bring his cousin Oscar, a guy who's apparently worked as a painter in a union, to the next job, but doesn't consult me. Says it's fine, and I have to deal. Great. New job site. New day. I still hate my life. Oscar isn't in a union, but he did work as a painter for over a decade, until he was put in jail for armed robbery. A jail stint that he was fresh out of as of a week ago. To Oscar's credit, he was very polite, respectful, and deferent. I had asked to speak to him alone before I let him set foot on the job site, and he was completely upfront about the jail time and what led to it, answering any questions I had had. I was convinced, and he did an excellent job. My boss stopped by for the first time in forever, and was also impressed by Oscar. So impressed that he decided Oscar and Jim would take on the job by themselves, a job that was mostly trim work for a family of mom, pop, and 3 daughters, 15, 11, and 7. He also decided that he would take care of all the customer interactions, with the exception of me dropping off the extra tall ladder halfway through to reach one ridiculously small but very high piece. Sure, fine. Halfway through the job, I showed up like a good peon, massive ladder in tow. Jim is listening to music, and I see Oscar furtively look at him, then wave to me to keep driving and park around the corner. I love me some drama. Don't care about anything anymore, so I do. Oscar sprints to my car and tells me that Jim has been making the owners and the daughters very uncomfortable, and my boss had been ignoring their calls. Oscar had told them privately to wait until the day I came, and he would make sure I talked to them. I thanked Oscar, told him that I would deal with it right then, and requested he hang around and proceed as if everything is fine, in case I needed his assistance in any capacity. I pulled into the driveway, nodded at Jim, and knocked on the door. I was pulled in almost immediately by a frantic mother. The family was Russian, so I was treated to a deluge of information that I could mostly understand, but the rest made me think red from OITNB found out I didn't like her food. Apparently, Jim had been very opportunistic about his ladder position as he worked on the second floor of the house, and they were conveniently always able to see directly into the girls' bedrooms, which he took pictures of on his phone. He also made multiple comments to the girls as they came home from school that were a sizable step over the line of pedophilia, but a freaking football field past the line of how you speak to a customer or their kids, period. Massively inappropriate, sexual innuendos, the works. I managed to keep myself from melting into the floor and promise them that this will be dealt with immediately. With that, I walk out to confront Jim. I ask Jim if I can use his phone because mine was dead, and after he hands it over, I find almost 100 pictures of the various bedrooms from every angle possible, zoomed in, etc. He sees me open the pictures from his position on the ladder and starts flying down and screaming at me. He launches at me, and Oscar puts himself in between us, yelling at Jim to calm down. Jim panics and flees for his car, leaving his phone with me. Police were called, and I handed the phone over, was interviewed. Poor Oscar almost had a panic attack, but they said they would work with the family and take it from there. Great, I finished the job with Oscar. We get tipped, and the family thanked us for our role in helping them, as they didn't really know how to handle what Jim was doing. Time passes, and I'm home watching TV in the living room. It's about 9 p.m. Light floods the room as a car pulls up my neighbor's driveway with its brights on. I don't care. I continue watching TV. A few minutes pass, and I hear yelling from the neighbor's house. I look out the window, and it's Jim's car in their driveway. Because my boss had given him my home address as where to pick up the checks at the end of each week. He got confrontational, yelling at the neighbors, wondering where I was, when really all he had to do was turn around to see my idiotic, slack-jaw face staring out the window about 6 feet away. Then he pulled out a handgun and started motioning at the wife. Before I can register this is actually happening, or grab my own gun, which I would have heroically used to shoot myself in the foot or something, my living room is filled with red and blue lights as multiple police cars pull up and consequently arrest Jim. Jim had 4 guns in the passenger seat of his car, one of which was an AR-15 and another a shotgun. He apparently had only taken one out to wave over his head, leaving the other 3 in the car because he wasn't 100% sure which house was mine. My neighbors are elderly, nosy, snarky, and call the cops on any and everything of little or no consequence. They called as soon as his beater car pulled up in their driveway, and their knee-jerk 911 reaction likely saved my life. Jim, let's not meet again. Also, you suck at painting.